Just 4 days into his second term, President Trump is not wasting any time going after those who have spoken out against him. Trump has revoked federal security protection for his former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who faces ongoing threats from Iran. This latest move comes just days after Trump pulled the Secret Service detail for his former national security advisor turned critic, John Bolton. And Ambassador John Bolton joins us now. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for being here. Trump is defending his decision to pull protection for you and Secretary Pompeo. Let's listen to that.
When you have protection, you can't have it for the rest of your life. Do you want to have a large detail of people guarding people for the rest of their lives? I mean, there's risks to everything.
I guess, he did vow retribution during the campaign. Is that what this is? What's your response to that?
No, I think it is retribution. Look, there are several people, several former officials who are being protected because of Iranian threats made against their lives in connection with the elimination of Qasem Soleimani back in January of 2020, a decision President Trump himself approved. If you could ask all of us, I'll speak for all of them, I think I can do that. We'd be delighted to say we'd like to see the protection ended well before the end of our lives. If the threat diminishes, if the threat level remains high, look, it's up to the president. But in my case, getting Secret Service protection is not a perquisite. It's not something you should want. It was provided by President Biden because of threats that have subsequently been documented in a Justice Department criminal charge against the Iranian Revolutionary Guards official trying to hire a hitman against me.
Right, and I have to assume that this protection not only helps you, but helps protect your family, members of your family as well. At times, do you fear for your safety, your family's safety?
Well, I think they follow the media in Tehran, and when they see that Mike Pompeo, myself, no longer have coverage, given that it's just a few weeks ago now that the federal officials arrested a Pakistani national working for the Iranians, trying to hire assassins to kill President Trump. This is a very real, ongoing threat. I was told as recently as the weekend before the inaugural that the threat level remained the same. And I should say, neither I nor any of the other people who are receiving the protection have anything to do with establishing the threat level. That comes from a consensus from the intelligence community. So the idea that nobody's entitled to protection for the rest of their lives, except, of course, former presidents, is kind of a non-answer to the point. I think Trump knew exactly what he was doing.
He's trying to rattle your cage, I guess. Is that what you think?
Well, whatever it is, it's the sort of decision that represents the triumph of politics over national security. I'm sure when President Biden approved Secret Service protection for me, he wasn't wild about the criticisms I was making, but sure. he didn't allow policy differences to affect his decision.
Mr. Ambassador, I did want to ask you about Russia and Ukraine. Trump said he wanted to meet Vladimir Putin, quote, immediately to secure an end to the war in Ukraine. What do you think this means for Ukraine? I guess Trump had said that he was going to try to end it as soon as he came into office. That hasn't happened. But what's your response to all that?
Well, I think Trump wants the Ukraine war and the Middle East war behind him, and I think he just wants to get it off his table. He thinks it's Biden's war, but I'm worried what that means for Ukraine, because if you don't care what the terms of the resolution of the war are, I think Putin will try to influence Trump. I think he knows how to do that. He knows how to play Trump, and I think that's a very dangerous territory for Ukraine.
And I just wanted to get your take on what Trump said during his inaugural speech earlier this week, that the U.S. should take back the Panama Canal. Do you take that seriously? And what does that mean, take back the Panama Canal? Does he mean some sort of military operation or pressuring the Panamanians to hand it back over to the U.S.?
Well, he was asked specifically, he wouldn't rule out military force. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think it makes us look ridiculous. He said in the inaugural that the Chinese are running the Panama Canal. They absolutely are not. He had said earlier Chinese soldiers were running the canal, which they absolutely are not. There's a problem with Chinese port operations around the world. I think in many strategic places, There's a couple of Chinese port operations on the Pacific coast of the Panama Canal. They're not running the canal itself. But if we've got problems with that, and there may well be a legitimate reason to be concerned, the way you handle it sensibly is to have quiet, behind closed doors negotiations with the Panamanians to get the Chinese company moved out and get somebody else moved in. When you negotiate under the glare of spotlights, you put people like the president of Panama, who happens to be pretty pro-American at the moment, you put him in a box and make it harder to get what you want. In effect, what Trump is doing here is getting in his own way.
All right, Ambassador John Bolton, thanks very much for your time. Good to talk to you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and coming up.